Awesome. So, hi everyone, I brought together some people from the mental health and tech industry to ask them a few questions about the mental health landscape in Singapore and how technology can play a role in improving mental health. So, maybe can all of you introduce yourselves, maybe starting with Anita.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Anita, and I'm co-founder and chief wellbeing officer at MindfulHacks, which is a B2B mental health and wellbeing company. And prior to joining MindfulHacks, I actually used to be a counselor and a psychologist working in hospitals, social enterprises, EAP settings. And fun fact about me, I also really enjoy dancing. I've been dancing my whole life. I'm also a dance teacher. And I actually own a dance studio.
You can strut some moves now.
Not right now, but yeah. So about 6 years ago, I set up a dance studio, and right now we have like 4 studios. We run like maybe 120 classes a week. So that's what I do when I'm not talking about mental health. So that's a little bit about me.
Cool. Maybe Antoinette, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. So I'm Antoinette. I'm the founder and CEO of Safe Space. For those of you who don't know who Safe Space is, we are a B2B2C digital mental health care provider and ecosystem. We service the general public at first, starting off as B2C, but we have then pivoted into servicing corporates as of this year. Yeah, so we're a regional company. We've already got presence in Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, and Vietnam. And really happy to be here today.
Yeah, fun fact, I was a volunteer at Safe Space before, but when I came up with the idea of this hackathon. So that was pretty nice when they were really supportive of the idea. All right, Xiang Yin, you maybe want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm the publisher and editor of the White Book. So I know it's a mental health and tech discussion, but I come in with a print book. And that's actually the first book in Singapore that brings together sort of 50 voices on things that surround mental health. We use mental health as a bucket to look at how it emerges in our personal, social, and civic lives. And by that, I mean you can find pieces that range from addiction to the mental health of a migrant society, to postnatal, to dementia. So it's basically really relooking at what mental health means. So in the daytime, I actually work with the Google News Initiative. So I love tech, but I love analog as well. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think you'd be able to bring a pretty cool perspective onto this conversation. Maybe Andy, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so hi everyone. I'm Andy. I'm a founder of Valuate Technology. So we are AI automation solutions company in Singapore. So for some of the participants, I think you have met my other founder who gave an AI and mental workshop about maybe a few hours ago. So in my previous life, I was a psychology student actually in NUS before I pivoted to data science, and now I'm doing other stuff. And I worked in a mental health hospital for some time. So the area of interest that I really have is the intersection between mental health and tech, which is why I'm on this panel, and very happy to be here with Tim and the rest of the panelists.
Awesome. So the fun fact, Andy is also working with me on a future project, which I think we'll be giving out a little bit more information tomorrow. So I'm curious sorry?
No, I didn't. Just have to, good things have to wait. We can share the surprise tomorrow.
Yeah, we gotta tease them a little bit about this. Maybe if I could ask some of you to share what made you guys interested about mental health. I think we can go the same order as just now. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess I've been interested in psychology since I was a teenager, which is why I chose to study it in university. But it was about 9 years ago when I first started practicing in a hospital that I became very passionate about preventive mental health and about maybe about the stigma around mental health or the reasons why people don't seek mental health support. And it's because when I was working in a hospital, I used to see a lot of really severe cases. So, failed suicide attempts or people who were starting to get in trouble with the law because of their inability to cope with their mental health issues. And that's when I realized that, we need to build a society where people are able to reach out for mental health support really, really early on, where they're not afraid to reach out for mental health support, where they know how to take care of their own mental health. So I think in so many situations, mental health can be addressed very early on before problems escalate. And yeah, so it was about 9 years ago. So I've always been interested in psychology, but it was about 9 years ago when I really became passionate about mental health, because I realized how if it's not taken care of, it can really spiral out of control. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you on that.
Okay. I guess the next in line would be me. So for me, what got me interested in mental health was really my personal experience. I honestly never thought I would have a mental health startup. So let's start there. For me, the personal experience was I was an employee that went through burnout, and I'm quite open to share my story. So I went through that in a time where talking about mental health in the workplace or with your friends and family is something that you don't really do. You're a little bit embarrassed and shy to even get started. So I just decided, you know what, I will do it. And I went through that whole customer journey, being on the end user, looking for a therapist. So understanding it from an insurance perspective, was there mental health policy coverage? Nope, nothing was available. Everything was out of pocket. And even finding your most suited therapist, being in that frame of mind where you're actually in a panic state and you actually don't really know how to pick a therapist, because what is CBT? What is all these different terms? How do I know they're going to help me? So that's after going through that and after overcoming that situation, that actually got me interested more in mental health, actually, because I realized, oh my God, I never thought that would happen to me. Right. And clearly, if it could happen to me, it could happen to my team, it can happen to my family and friends. So that sparked the interest, and that actually got me the idea of that, there is definitely a gap in treatment here. And maybe I could do something about that. So yeah, that's how the whole idea of Safe Space came about, actually.
All right, it's me. Hi. So for me, I think, yes, it was a combination of personal experiences, both in terms of going through conditions as well as people around me. So I have really close and loved ones who also go through things like OCD and anxiety. So I'm really close to seeing how also supporting figures and loved ones try to navigate this. My interest in mental wellness and health has been quite a while, actually. I would say even more than a decade. And the idea of a book already came maybe 6 years ago, but it still stands today. If today you go to our National Library, the main one at Bugis, you're trying to find books on mental health, it's just shelved under these two lovely shelves that's called Common Illnesses and Diseases. So the stigma is really terrible. There's no localized literature. They're all not accessible. They're either academic books or memoirs. So that sort of sparked the idea of a book, but I wanted to do it really properly and try to really unpack what mental health means. So what lies behind our stigma. And that led to the book, which I am still looking to have a second one and third one, but I will take the time for it. And I would say that along the way, I actually see mental health as a space that really captures so much of our human condition and our human psyche. I also love things like psychology. While doing this book, I've been reading things from neurobiology to even socialism and all these kind of things, because mental health really captures all these nuances, because it's just really about being human, to be honest. But yeah, that's it's going to be a lifelong companion, I think. And over to you, Andy.
Thanks. I'm receiving the baton. I think a lot of us are drawn to mental health or interested because of personal experiences. So much like the other panelists, I also have a close encounter with mental health situation. In my case, it's actually a close immediate family member of mine who had severe depression for a number of years. And that was back when I was really young and very not aware of mental health issues. And back then I felt really helpless to help this family member of mine. So that actually put me to learn more about mental health and mental wellness as well. I think after exploring the space a bit, I was really quite amazed how much our education system, the environment, our parents don't really prepare us for these kind of conversations. It's the gap is really huge, and that's why that propelled me to investigate the space much more. And in my interest, I would want to use tech as a lever to help this space. So that's why I'm interested in mental health.
Yeah, I mean, thanks everyone for sharing why you're into mental health, and I'm pretty sure that many other people out there or in our audience are interested due to maybe similar reasons or different as well. So my next question would be, what strategies have you used to improve your mental health regardless of tech or non-tech? And what worked and what didn't? Because I think it'd be pretty nice to hear from you guys, especially for the audience who are developing their projects, on what kind of, I would say, what are the things that you do that help, regardless of whether it's seeking treatment or something you do at home.
All right, I guess I'll go first. There are a few things that I
space. So we actually do have like a monthly check-in. What are we happy about? Yeah, on a personal level, definitely I do that, but it's not so planned. It's just roughly once in a while I'll check in with myself. But yeah, I do have that sometimes.
Yeah, this is a really nice one. Xiangyun and Andy, do you guys practice gratitude as well?
It comes quite instinctively to me. I don't really have a practice per se, because I am genuine. It sounds so cheesy.
No, but that's the whole point. You kind of practice it until it becomes instinctive, and then you don't have to consciously practice it.
I don't.
Yeah. So I used to be like Xiangyun, like I didn't have an active practice, but I feel like I've, have a bit of the mindset like Xiangyun that it comes in quite instinctively. But several months back, one of my good friends was struggling with depression. So I started to do a nightly gratitude practice with her. We'll just text each other 3 things we're grateful for at the end of every day. So that's been, that's actually been really nice because I get to share the good things that happened in my day, and I get to be a part of like what's going on in her day. So that's, yeah. So even though I kind of primarily started doing it to support my friend, I feel myself benefiting from it as well. Another mental health strategy that I really enjoy, and this one I would recommend doing when things are good, like not when things are bad, but is to actively find ways to build your resilience. So by challenging yourself to things that you normally wouldn't do, things that are difficult for you, just because when we're faced with we struggle with our mental health when we feel like we're facing obstacles that are difficult for us to overcome, right? So the best thing that we can do is to just practice overcoming obstacles. So that could be anything from taking cold showers in the morning or training to run a marathon. So for me, personally, I generally have various projects that I like to do that are that are interesting, but also designed to like challenge myself. So some of the things that I've done is gone mountain climbing, or I decided to learn Russian, various various like little tasks that are challenging for you. So you practice overcoming difficult situations, and along the way you build your resilience.
Great. No, I think those tips are actually really good. And even for us on the panel, like we could also probably use some of those tips for ourselves as well. For me personally, so I'm a mental health startup, right? So as much as possible, I try to do a digital detox if I can. And for me, I try to schedule my self-care time just as much as my work meetings, because there's just so many things going on at the same time. It can really get lost in just the work that you're doing, because I'm also a workaholic. So I try to schedule in my self-care time as much as my work meetings. I try to really make my shower time my way of ending the day. Using aromatherapy soap like lavender to just de-stress and calm the day away. But in terms of my own team, we also make it very open when it comes to talking about counseling. I still go for counseling, and I tell my team that, hey, I'm going to be away because at 4 o'clock I'm going to go for my therapy session. So normalizing the conversation around mental health, that actually it also helps my team to open up and to actually, take the help that they need as well. And I guess other than that, for me, if it's technology that I do use, other than my own platform to find therapists, I use Headspace a lot actually. So Headspace has been great in terms of the guidance and all that, and I really enjoy all the little self-guided meditation that they do. So for me, that's one of the things that I use. And the last point for me is actually to just pay it forward to someone else in some way. It could be volunteering. I feel really fortunate to be in the position that I'm in. And I think for me to pay it forward and help someone else, that also helps to improve my own mental health because I'm doing something for someone else. So yeah, these are some of the things that I do for myself.
Yeah, actually, I do really relate to both what Anita and Internet shared. In terms of challenging yourself, I think that is important, especially to look at it as a fun experiment. I love challenging myself in fun ways and just not having any expectations, or not going into something with you want to achieve this, you want to achieve that. I love to just try everything, and I think that makes all the difference. And in terms of what Internet shared about paying it forward, I think that's actually my way of expressing gratitude. To have enough abundance to pay it paid for is quite a incredible thing. As for myself, I think the pivotal point actually came to first prioritize my health first. It sounds simple, but it is so hard to do. But I think it's so easy to feel guilty to prioritize yourself, to whether it's about taking time out for yourself, to even think about your health. Getting there, it already took me quite a few years. But I also realized that to be able to take care of others, I need to be at a good place myself. So that was actually the fundamental step to me. And I think it's really important to to go through the process of trying things to find out what exactly suits you, because I think whatever works for someone may not be the best way for you. So I've also worked in startups. Right now I work in big tech, and things are incredibly crazy, and I'm actually on tech all the time. So at night I do need to start disconnecting, and there are certain tactics to do that. I turn off notifications. Actually, I only have WhatsApp notifications on, and I turn that off at night. And when I sleep, it's airplane mode, or when I do yoga, it's airplane mode. That's sort of very clear sort of disconnection. And the second is actually drawing boundaries, and that's also quite easy to say. But I think you really got to find out what your boundaries are. For me, that means actually, like Internet, I really schedule me time. I have non-negotiables. For example, for me, like my Saturday yoga, which I went for before this, is a non-negotiable. Like, to think of it that way it takes the whole thinking game out of your head. Like, you feel lazy. It's never easy to get there. You don't want to do this. There are better things to do. But 100%, I always feel better after. So these are just some things. I think there's actually a lot of different suggestions and tactics, and it's always helpful to just try more, try everything, and then just find out what works for you and own it. Don't think that just own it. It's whatever works for you works for you. So yeah, sorry, Andy, your turn.
I think it's great because I realize each of us are saying actually different things. So it's testament to Xiang Yin's point, right? That we all find our own strategies that actually work for us best. So for me, I exercise, and I actually do regular reflections. Part of it has to do with gratitude, like what went well, what I'm happy for. I also do something that I can't really describe, but I try to catch lies that I tell myself and I challenge it. So I think this is very close to, I guess, what they call cognitive therapy, but I think we often tell ourselves lies, and I see that not just in myself, but also other people. Like, if I fail this exam, my life ends, right? I think that's a common lie that we have to challenge. It sounds easy, but much like the gratitude practice, it takes time to internalize. Because when you're feeling like that, you have to first take a step back and be aware that that's actually a lie. And once you're aware of it, you have to challenge it with some other kind of thoughts, and then after that, process it. So I know it sounds simple when you speak about it, but it actually takes time. And with more practice, I find myself doing that kind of challenge or cognitive challenge way better. And that really helps me in dealing with a lot of negative thoughts or thoughts that might not be helpful, that would perhaps even make me go in a spiral. So that's one of the strategies I use. It's not really a strategy, but it's just something that if you keep practicing, I think it will be quite helpful. On the tech end, I don't really use much tech, and it's quite funny because I work in a tech field. For mental health, I keep it like quite clean. I'm actually one of the early users of MindFi. I was there when the platform first came out.
Amazing.
And back when they was just I think just they only had meditation practices, like very simple 1-2 minute kind, and I loved it actually, because mindfulness doesn't have to be a sit down mindfulness or breath type of practice, but it could be exemplified in many parts of our lives also. So I think that's pretty much the tool I use. I'm very excited to go on a Safe Space platform as well.
Thank you.
I've been following Safe Space for a number of years because I'm very interested in mental health tech startup. So I never got a chance to use it. So hopefully when that opportunity comes, or when I can recommend people, I'll definitely want to hop onto that. So those are the tech stuff I'm aware of that I use. Tim, you're muted.
Yeah. So I was just saying that's great. It's so wonderful to hear every one of you share the very different methods on how you guys maintain your own mental state and take care of yourself. So I actually want to open this pretty broad question to the floor. It's how can we advance mental health innovation using technology? So I think anyone can start. It doesn't have to be in the certain order, and I'm curious to see what each of you have to say about that.
Okay, I'm happy to go first. I think before we can talk about advancing it, maybe let's go back to the basics first. If we go back to the key fundamentals, really understanding what's the problem, what's the solution, and can you actually find product market fit? I think that is the foundation that you need to set first. And then once you have that, then we can take a look at, what are the different innovative ways we can use to create your solution. For me, my background is not tech. So I mentioned before that I was an employee. My background is actually advertising tech, but I was sitting more on the analytics and operational side. So for any of the attendees here who are also not a tech background, learn about the different technical solutions that are out there. Do you want to explore artificial intelligence, IoT, machine learning and data? And I would definitely encourage you to do a lot of A/B testing actually, and be willing to fail, but fail fast. and use those learnings to then test what's the next solution that you think would be beneficial out there, and really tap on the support that's around you. So with mental health, because it's still in its infancy, right? There is still some stigma, and you do have to build up your resilience to get through all those barriers where people might say, hey, mental health tech will not work in Asia, because that's what we experienced when we first started Safe Space. But we managed to overcome that, and we are one of the main startups, I guess, when it comes to mental health tech, at least that's based in Singapore. So I think for that, yeah, there's always new technology that's coming out. So really keep abreast of what's happening right now and seeing how you can actually utilize this knowledge to your advantage.
Maybe I can chime in a little bit. So Antoinette was talking about how, in Asia, there's still a lot of stigma when it comes to mental health. It's a little bit behind like the Western world when it comes to mental health solutions. And actually this shows up in the number of mental health professionals there are. So Asia has a big shortage of mental health professionals. In the US, there are about 30 psychologists per 100,000 people. In Europe, some of the countries have more than 100 psychologists per 100,000 people. But in a lot of Asian countries, this number is actually less than one. It's point something, especially across Southeast Asia. So I see mental health tech as a way to kind of distribute these resources more efficiently. So for example, in Safe Space, where you match therapists with users, MindFi as well, we do that, but we sell to corporates. So we do the corporate EAP program. What we do is we're taking this very scarce resource and we're helping to distribute it more effectively by giving the therapists a platform where they can reach more people. We're giving users more accessibility. They can browse through therapists so they can find a better fit. So I see tech as something that helps to distribute the scarce resource and make it more accessible and also make it more cost efficient. And on top of that, in MindFi, what we try to do in the app is we make a lot of self-care programs to take things like one step down for people who maybe their problems, they don't feel ready to speak to a therapist, but they do have some struggles they want to go through. Maybe they just don't have that budget to spend on a therapist. They do have some resources that they can have access to and very, very affordable. So I see mental health tech as helping to make up for or to make the most of the inadequate mental health professionals, inadequate number of mental health professionals that we have in this part of the world. Yeah, and then also AI. Something nice about AI is you can use that for like self-care programs. You can use that to guide people, to give people recommendations, because a lot of people don't know enough to navigate, to pick their own resources. They don't know what's wrong. They don't know what tools and resources they need. So that's where AI can come into play and help to give people guidance. Yeah. Maybe Andy, you're into AI. Do you have any thoughts on how AI can play a role in mental health?
Yes, actually. So on AI, there are a couple of areas where it can be helpful. I think Anita mentioned about actually on the intervention level, right? Like there are a couple of kind of AI algorithms that can improve matchmaking of, for example, therapists to patients or clients. That could be helpful. There could be even AI therapists that could serve the first level type of intervention. They're not perhaps not give therapy, but even do assessments and then filter it to the psychologist. That might really be a force multiplier because you have layers of care now. So that's where I think AI comes in. It's very good for problems that are, in a way, there's a lot of data and you can actually find an optimal solution. And for problems that, because machines don't get tired, right? They're always there 24/7. You want more, you can always get more servers. So for problems that are currently lacking in manpower, you can scale easily with these kind of solutions. So I think that's where AI can come in. On the innovation question, right? I want to approach the question slightly differently. So I think innovation means different things to different people. So I give an example. At Valuate, we have clients ranging from really a very small company to clients who are huge with regional presence or even MNCs. So when you go in as like a consultant or even a person doing projects there, their type of innovation at the, let's say, 100 million level and the 100K revenue level is very different. The 100 million level, they're looking at cutting edge tech. They're looking at what the researchers are publishing and how do they implement that there. At the 100K level, right, innovation to them is actually really could be as simple as just doing business intelligence. And my sense of the mental health scene is that largely, the type of innovation that we see is not going to be at the 100 million end. It's going to be more at the closer to the 100K end. And I don't know how the scene is like now because I've not been in the mental health scene, like operating as either as a therapist or as some kind of person in the industry. But at least 5 years ago, when I was in the mental health hospital, there were things that they really need that is really existing tech, but it's not being implemented. For example, things like when patients fill in certain forms that need to be scored, these things can be easily automated, but they still use pen and paper. Even their CMS is the clinic management system they use in hospitals, right? They have the ability to track data and actually performance outcomes. They don't even need AI to say you can recommend this treatment modes. What they can do is just use simple business intelligence tools to tell me who are your top performing psychologists, psychiatrists. Then you can go and ask them what they are doing good, or tell me which patient profiles tend to succeed and which tend to have a lot of remissions. Then you can go and do a bit of treatment interventions to tailor more to these people. So I think to advance mental health innovation, we shouldn't just look at pushing boundaries using AI and all the other kind of cool things, blockchain tech, all the hype words that we're using now, big data, but also at a broader level, how can we shift the cohort closer to these guys? So I think that's the missing element here. And I was hoping that a lot of the hackathon participants will be actually looking at these kind of issues, not just about how to use the latest tech to push the frontiers, maybe give better service and whatnot, but actually look at real life operational issues like what Antoinette mentioned, which like what's the actual problem the users are really facing on the ground, and work based on that. Because I think then you will help push the field forward as a whole, rather than just pushing that boundary. And what ends up is that you have two ends, the ends that are really rich and they are looking at really cool stuff, and then there's always the lowest common denominator that's not really shifting. And what we actually want to shift is these guys here to here. Yeah, those are my thoughts on innovation and using tech.
Yeah, I do agree about that. I mean, I do agree with that. I do see. I mean, we all know that the demand for support and care has really increased the past year or so. Maybe it's due to the pandemic or due to people raising awareness about the certain issues and trying to address the stigma. But I do see really long queues for therapy at my school. I think it used to be something where you can just walk in anytime. Right now, it's something where you gotta wait a few months for your appointment, and I think that's crazy. Like you have a panic attack, and they're like, okay, you gotta wait a few months for us to get to you. I think that shouldn't be the case. So perhaps we can look into more maybe like what Andy said, less of the cutting edge stuff and more of the sort of hidden issues that we have right next to us. Xiangyun, what do you think about that?
Oh, completely agree. I mean, to me, as in like what Andy said, there's a lot of gaps, obviously, but I think there's a lot of opportunity for tech to sort of democratize accessibility, whether that's in terms of education or resources. So that's for one kind of user profile. So that is like those who need treatment or are seeking information. But within the mental health care ecosystem, I'm sure within the systems itself, there are so many opportunities to just make things more efficient, more scalable. Because obviously also like Anita has mentioned, there's a lack of, sort of professionals in terms of ratio. It takes super long for for psychologists and counselors to get training. And there's also the danger of from that is that, but whatever they're equipped with in terms of education is not so relevant anymore when they actually start practicing. For example, trauma is not a very big part of sort of traditional treatment sort of education. But yeah, that's another piece. But on tech, I mean, I was thinking, I'm not like a professional in tech as much as I respect and love it. So I may not be able to really word it well, but I was thinking at what we are doing at Google News Initiative as a sort of analogy or parallel, which basically Google News Initiative is sort of Google's commitment to help news and media organizations around the world thrive in the digital world. And to me, I am fascinated because this is where, for the first time, it's not like tech against news and media. You know how, say, news and media are struggling because of tech. They are no longer having ad revenue. And it's more of like, oh, you have to learn how to use tech in order to survive. But whatever we're doing now really looks at this relationship that is mutually beneficial in the way that Google needs the quality journalism, and journalism, they need tech. So I was thinking as a sort of thinking in terms of parallel in tech and mental health, instead of thinking them as separate things, well, is there a way where the research or the data or sort of the learnings from mental health tech can actually also benefit the tech innovation or tech discipline or something like that? I mean, it's a very abstract thought right now, but it just popped out while actually you guys were talking, because it's a new way of really looking at technology as not just a tool, but actually something that's really integrated to whatever work you're trying to do. Yeah. Not sure how that sits with all of you.
I mean, it's good that we have these abstract ideas to sort of think about. I think maybe I might not be able to answer or give that many thoughts on what you just said, but I'll let it sink in and maybe I'll get back to you on that another time. Yeah, so I think we mentioned a little bit about the what tech can do, but I do know that out there are some obstacles that we have that prevents the adoption of technology for mental health. Like, let's say in a large scale treatment or in the system, like if it's so useful in improving operation or like improving the cutting edge stuff as well, why hasn't it been done already? I am wondering if you guys have any thoughts on that.
I can touch on 2 points. So at SafeSpace, we do quite a bit of research on our site because there is a lack of mental health research, especially when it comes to mental health tech in Asia. So we do a lot of it on our site. And one of it was actually on this particular area. So I guess if it's lack of adoption when it comes to mental health tech, there can be 2 possible areas. One could be information overload, for example. There is so much noise happening right now on multiple resources coming out by governments, by schools. There isn't really a channel for individuals to know where is the true resource portal for them to get all that information about mental health, but also mental health tech. So I would think a lack of a centralized system actually could be one barrier. Second point would be stigma as a whole, but also self-stigma. You know, do you want to actually admit that you might need therapy sessions? There's still a stigma there. And although we are trying to work more with the youth space, they worry about the impact that might have on their peers and as well as their family members, not just youth, but working adults as well. And we're seeing that across the board. So I think for barrier to mental health tech adoption, those are the main 2 points. But there are other gaps in this that we can see, where it's not just mental health tech adoption, but just mental health treatment as a whole. There are still long wait times. There is still an affordability issue. Tech is supposed to solve the affordability issue. So I would think the primary 2 concerns are really information overload and stigma and self-stigma.
Yeah,
Sorry about that. I was gonna say that I fully agree with Antoinette. Like, I think people just don't feel comfortable asking. They don't know what resources are out there, and stigma is a huge one. One thing I want to add on is maybe from the therapist perspective. I think a lot of psychologists, a lot of counselors are just generally not very comfortable. It's generally a profession that's not very involved in technology, because counseling and psychology tends to be a very face-to-face human interaction. And a lot of therapists, myself included, we pride ourselves on that human connection, being together. And I think for me personally, I would not have even considered getting into mental health tech if it hadn't been for the pandemic. I was always very much a in person, be together, community, So I think for a lot of mental health professionals, I think if it wasn't for the pandemic, the tech adoption would have been very slow, just because it's a profession that's not typically done over tech. It's not typically very involved in tech. And I think that's been one of the factors. Antoinette, do you feel the same way when you recruit therapists onto your platform? Do you feel that there's again this?
Yes, but it has gotten a lot better. Let me tell you, when we first started, it was definitely an uphill battle, trying to get them to consider using technology as a way to complement their existing practice and to not compete with their existing practice. So when we first started, it was a lot of education, on the benefits that we could do. We held a lot of talks. We went to the National Counseling and Psychotherapy Conference to actually hold a proper talk on this during the lockdown. And I think because of the lockdown and COVID, that whole conversation shifted. Now people see the value, their practice can continue with technology, and they won't have to worry about, can I still hold my counseling sessions? So definitely I feel the same way. And I'm glad that finally this is not so much of a barrier anymore with the therapist.
Yeah, actually just
now we tend to be a profession that prides ourselves on being together in person.
I think that's the barrier on the tech side as well. So and I think this is a thing amongst a lot of the software engineers and other developers. I guess everyone in the tech space, we tend to want to develop like perfect solutions or very optimal solutions. And sometimes, right, because of the way we think, these kind of solutions don't really translate to the ground. The product doesn't reach the market. And it's always, sorry?
I said, I hear you. It has happened on our side too.
And you want to deal with the developers or the engineers, you have to explain to them, I know we from 15 steps, we cut down to your step is 3, but the users want the 7-step solution, even though it's more inefficient. But that's how it is. If you don't change it, you don't have the user empathy, what's going to end up happening is that we're going to be stuck at the 15-step solution. There will be no improvement at all. So so my challenge to the tech community, and I guess a lot of the participants here are from tech, is that don't obsess over like that solution that you want to create, because that will affect the adoption of tech. Your guys at the ground, like what Anita mentioned, right? They won't think like you. They operate in a different way, and you need to develop products with that in mind. So I'm hoping that I think it's getting better. Like as we get more I guess people going to tech and starting to think about these things, right? The user empathy component becomes increasingly important. But I still feel that the people are drawn to that discipline tend to want to solve problems in the most optimal fashion, and it's an active kind of bias they have to go and fight against. So be really aware. If you want to design products to lead to adoption, you need to come to the user point of view, right? I myself, when I develop solutions in many, at least in the very early stages, I often face that problem, and I keep insisting that I'm right. But end of the day, what is right is when the users adopt that tech and it actually helps them. So think of that now. I think that's important.
I just wanted to mention, I just want to add on to Antoinette's point just now when she mentioned that there's a lot of white noise out there, a lot of information just put out, but you don't really know what to look at. It does seem, it is really common nowadays because people, I would say a lot of people, at least around me, tell me that they don't know where the resources are, or they don't know where the right resources are. And then they try to create a solution to provide what they think is the right resource as well. But I think there has been so many of these popping up, even from, I know the government's trying to put out one of their own mental health platforms, and I checked it out.
Okay.
I feel like it's just they just try to put everything there, and I don't think that is a really good idea, because you want to address certain issue, you have to hone down on it and not just like put everything there and let them do it themselves, because this is not I feel like mental health is very personal and very it's something where if they don't want to help themselves, it's very hard for you to help them as well. Yeah. Maybe if no one has anything to add on, we can have a Q&A session right now. So whoever's in the audience, you can just feel free to drop your questions in, and we'll take the next 5 to 10 minutes to answer them.
I think someone asked what gives you hope.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, someone did ask what gives you hope. For me, I think it's the fact that people, when you implement a solution, you're thinking about it from like a really like a perspective where you're really far away and just trying to do something for a lot of people. But especially when when you do something and maybe like one or two people come back to you, say, oh my goodness, this really changed my life, and or you saved me. I think that was something, I'm not too sure if that counts as hope, but that really motivates me to do the things I do. I think it's less applicable for me because I haven't really pushed out anything to solve mental health issues, to address mental health issues on that scale. And maybe some of you might, I think Antoinette replied to that question saying that that safe space will leave a positive impact on people, and that sort of gives her hope as well. Yeah, I mean, it's a really personal thing, especially when someone comes to you and tells you that it really helped them. I think, Xiangyin, you mentioned people talking about the white book as well, right?
Yeah. In what do you mean? It's in a lot of the readers have written in to just share how much they appreciate the book. They may even find like reading certain experiences triggering, but they really appreciate the diversity of the perspectives and the voices inside. And what is really important is that almost all of them tell me that after reading it, they feel less alone. So it just reminds me how important it is to just not feel alone in your journey, because I mean, it's such an individual, personal thing, right? And most of the time, you're trying to figure out what it means for yourself. And that process can be quite lonely. In terms of hope, though, that's a really hard one to question, to answer, to be honest. And I think, yeah, it's really personal. It will differ for everyone, but possibility is what gives me hope, I think.
Yeah, I think asking what gives hope is a really hard question for me to answer. I'm thinking for everyone here to answer as well.
Maybe
Because hope is such a is a big word. Right. So to dissect hope a bit, it's definitely something positive, right, and something in the future, right? So what makes you sort of look forward in the future with some kind of positive light? If it's phrased that way, I think I can possibly answer that. I think it's important to, exactly what Anita said, like take gratitude and be grateful, and not just grateful for all the like big successes and other things in life, but just really a small thing. So what actually drives me is that every day I wake up, I spend time with my loved ones, and I feed my cat, very, very small things that I'm very happy about. And if my day tomorrow I get to eat, so I've been putting on some weight since I started working. And then I love KFC, but my wife doesn't want to let me eat KFC. But having a KFC treat end of Friday is really something that's small. That gives me that motivation to push through so that I can eat that meal. So I don't know. If you're thinking about very, very big things, it's not something that I have, but rather I always just think about small things and take it one step at a time. I don't know. I just find that's more. Then hope doesn't become some abstract thing, but it's really, really just something you can experience and feel, even on Friday, where I just realized I haven't done my KFC today, but it's okay. Yes, on Friday, but it's okay. Next week.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll chime in. I think, I think there are a lot of things that can give a person hope. But I think for me, people are a big one. And I think that, if you surround yourself with good people, you will not be short of hope and inspiration and ideas and, energy, good energy. Yeah, I think for me, people, good people, good energy. If I've got that, then I am not short of hope in the slightest.
Awesome. I think we're coming to the end of the discussion for today. Do you have any last things you want to say to our audience before I close the session? None? If none, then I think I'll be closing this session. Thank you all of you for coming and taking the time to come down and participate in this discussion with us. I'm sure many of the things you said would be really useful to the participants and myself as well, and maybe each other. Yeah, so this recording will be on YouTube for you to view or share at any point in time.
Oh no, I shouldn't have said the KFC thing then.
You know it would be.
I forgot about.
Your wife will be watching it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Right. Then I think that's about it. Thank you everyone for coming. I'll be closing this session.
Thanks so much for organizing things. Thanks to the rest of the panelists. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.